Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Monday. Start of the work week is upon us here. About 9:16 a.m. Monday morning. That's California time, December 9th, 2024. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D Globe shows a 2.5 into the area of Alaska. We'll get to that movement, and a pretty decent swarm here across the area of the Middle America Trench, it looks like, just south of there as well. First, want to cover volcano activity. Got a volcano erupting there in the Philippines. This is from the Kanlaon volcano. Quite the spectacular eruption there. Now, this volcano has erupted previously. It looks like back in June. There was a number of earthquakes there at the volcano. And they looks like a 16-minute long ash emission system there that took place prior during the event. Pretty crazy. There was about 87,000 people that had to be evacuated around the volcano. That's one thing I never understood, man. A lot of people love to build right on volcanoes. You know, as far as communities and whatnot goes, I get it. It's a spectacular view, but ultimately down the line, we could be talking about, you know, your whole livelihood being wiped away from an eruption. I see a lot of people. I was near the Clear Lake volcano yesterday, and seen on Mount Konocti quite a few homes up there around the area. All right, got an earthquake coming in here that's at 3.3 in Alaska. Now, let's see what we've got overnight here. There's a number of 5-pointers so far this morning. Looks to be 5.7 and a 5.3. Pretty decent size aftershocks, if that's what you want to call them. Now, yesterday, goodness, we had a number of 6-pointers out here. Let me show you guys a series of 6-pointers out here across the Adak, Alaska area. Major subduction zone there, the Aleutian Trench. Pretty lengthy as well, across the Kuril-Kamchatka end right here, all the way up into the Gulf of Alaska. That's a major subduction zone. And I'm trying to think which one's larger, whether it's the Peru-Chile Trench here along South America or the Aleutian Trench. I think up here, the Northern Pacific may have that record as far as the lengthiest subduction zone. So number of 6s yesterday. Been watching this overnight. Obviously, when there's an elevated event like this, like we seen yesterday and today, there's a possibility of something bigger in the works about ready to happen. Now, looking at these most recent earthquakes here from this morning, a couple 5s coming in. That tells me right there things are not quite done yet. It's possible, although I think the chances here maybe have dropped a little bit, considering that it somewhat calmed down overnight, at least from the ones that they're reporting. So far as any major mega quake goes, the potential has dropped a little bit, but we still got to watch that throughout the day today, as we're still seeing some 5s stirring up here along that area. So right now we got about 37 earthquakes of various magnitudes, some 2s in there as well. I'm sure there's a lot more than a couple 2s that they're reporting. I do have a seismograph station there. It's a BHZ station there on the bottom. That's fairly close to the current activity. So watch that one if you're on the live stream in terms of seeing what's being reported. A little earthquake there in Petrolia right now. Northern California, but we'll continue to keep an eye on it. Some movement out and about as well across the globe today. Let's go ahead and pull up the Earthquake 3D Globe and see what we got. Some further activity across the fracture zones out here in the Pacific, Southeast Pacific area. We've noticed a handful of earthquakes out there, some 5s from yesterday, roughly about that time that we noticed the elevated activity up north here. So the Pacific Plate definitely stirring up here in the last 24 hours, and the more recent earthquake here across the area to the south with a 5-pointer right there in the in this white ring. So we got some major unrest going on here across the Pacific Plate. Let's go ahead and look at that swarm down here. Goodness. So that's going to be roughly about the El Salvador area. That's what it looks like. The southern end here of the Middle America Trench. That's where all this swarming activity is occurring. Right about here. Now that area can see some big earthquakes up there along the Middle America Trench. That's the extreme southern end. Fairly shallow earthquake activity. A lot more on the globe than what's shown up there on the USGS map. I mean, they're showing the 5.6 and the 4.7, but as you can see, there's a hefty amount of aftershock sequences there following that event today. Actually, the 5.6 struck yesterday, 4.7 early this morning, and a handful of newer quake activity in there since. So that's potentially another area that could be seeing some further amplification here. The South America region, some uptick as well. As I try to point out, most of the time when we get activity out here across these divergent zones, the oceanic crust here, divergent boundary, that's meaning a separation here of the two plates. So eventually we're creating new seafloor out there, but at the same time, when that takes place out here, this strain that gets presented, and in this case it looks like the Nazca plate here to the east that runs into the Peru-Chile Trench here. Also some movement along the Cocos plate up here. Looks like that put the strain here along the Middle America Trench following yesterday's events. So watch for elevated activity out here, but also at the same time, you got to remember the Pacific plate here as a whole moves off to the northwest, a general pattern here in terms of GPS displacement. So yesterday's activity obviously looks like it put the strain up north. We got some further movement down south here. It could go either way. We could see a re-amplification of things out here across the South America area, the Middle America Trench, or maybe a recharging type of event up here across the Aleutian Trench. And possible, looks like it may be heading north with all the activity so far this morning. So we'll continue to watch that. That's definitely a big deal of elevated seismic activity out there. And of course that can have an effect on volcanoes across the Aleutian Trench. That's the reason why we have the volcanoes, is because of the subduction zone here, as the Pacific plate dives underneath the North American plate here to the north. That obviously creates that volcanic chain out there, and things can get stirred up. I don't think we got anything of abnormal activity out there across that region for now. Let me go check here and see what we got. Excuse me. Aside from the typical activity up there across the Great Sitka volcano, that's been in orange and watch here for quite a while. I don't see anything else stirring up out there in terms of any volcanic activity, any new activity that is. Everything else out there across the Aleutian Trench is green or unassigned, unmonitored. All right, so let's go ahead and check out. And if you look here, the rest of the Aleutian Trench, pretty quiet out here. Just focus right now on that spot, and that's where the buildup is continuing. Northern California, there was that little earthquake coming in here just a few minutes ago on the Petrolia station. Very small earthquake. Petrolia here was out there yesterday. Very closer to the epicenter and the plate boundary, the triple point boundary out here than the Dinsmore station. Dinsmore sits much further back inland. So that's why we see a lot of activity sometimes on the Petrolia station and not so much on the Dinsmore. And then at times we'll see a larger event here also showing up on the Dinsmore station. So that's just a very small microquake proximity, probably located down here, but nothing showing up there on the USGS map. The latest earthquake shows an earthquake from over an hour and a half ago, 8 o'clock local time here for 2.7. Overnight, far as any larger scale activity goes, it looks like a couple threes in there. Another 4-pointer late at night, just after 11 o'clock, back along the plate boundary here, right about where the 7-pointer struck. Now, in total tally, this is just what they are reporting. If you've been watching my videos, I've been showing you guys over and over a lot of earthquakes showing up on these two stations here very strongly, and nothing being reported, nothing being filled in either. We'll see what happens Monday morning. During the weekend, most of the time, well, it is Monday morning. What am I thinking here? Thinking it's still the weekend. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? So Monday morning, I mean, by the time these guys drink their coffee and get everything in, settled, it may not be till the end of the day till hopefully we see some of those hour-long blackouts of earthquake activity that we notice there on the graphs, but not on the charts here, get filled in. I mean, they have to go back and fill them in. Those were earthquakes, nonetheless. They were legit earthquakes, talking about 2s and 3s. magnitude levels, maybe some upper threes as well. There was just a blackout, about a 3.5 hour long blackout throughout the day on not Sunday, but it was on Saturday when we had earthquakes coming into the seismos there in Northern California, but nothing being reported. And, I don't think they've got them yet. Let me go back and check here. So I remember the time frame here. So that would be 8th, 7th right here. It was about 8 something in the morning till, let's see, 8:35. Was it Saturday or was it maybe Friday? Let's see here. May have been on. Let me look. Stand by here for just a second, folks. So 12/7 technically would be on Saturday. That's Saturday morning, right? It's just been a long weekend. Crazy fun drive over there across the Petrolia area. Beautiful scenery along the Lost Coast region over there. But man, are those roads rough. Pothole central, but I understand it. I wouldn't want those roads fixed either. It keeps the traffic out of there. Beautiful area, though. Let's see. Maybe was it Friday? It may have been on Friday. 8:13, 8:38, 9:07. It almost looks like maybe they're starting to fill in some of the events that they missed there on Saturday morning, because I don't see that window gap. It was roughly between about 8:35 till 9:30, and it looks like they filled in a couple earthquakes. So that's good that they're filling them in, and I'm sure they'll get to the rest here. So that's good news. So for a total, wow, look at that number. You guys know me, right? The significance for me is 333, and I just happened to pull that number up here. What's the chances of that? So 333 earthquakes here, following the 7-pointer a few days back now off the coast of Northern California. That's quite impressive right there. 333. Wow. With, of course, the largest going to be the 7-pointer. No 5s in the mix, even though, I think there may have been some aftershocks there that was awfully close or over. But everything shows underneath the 5 magnitude, with the largest a 4.7. So interesting activity. We'll continue to watch that, folks, and see if anything gets kicked up following. It's dying off, which is expected, and the possibility here of seeing something larger here has probably died off as well. But we'll watch that for any increasing momentum there across Northern California. The southern end of the Cascadia, obviously, we've been getting quite a bit of tremor inland underneath this area, which still, raises a concern that we may not be done out here yet. Tremor activity is a good sign that strain is back building up here across the subduction zone. And we've seen a few of those earthquakes there in that area. Let's go ahead and check out further south here, Bay Area of Northern California. Pretty quiet aside from a couple smaller microquakes out there. Although, let's see what we got there. 2.5 this morning along the creeping section of the San Andreas Fault. That is an area that's seen some movement out here yesterday, I think, as well. A couple earthquakes in that vicinity. Further down south along the Parkfield segment, pretty quiet. The southern branch of the San Andreas Fault sleeping for now. I don't think we got anything above 2.5 down in Southern California. One way down south there, south of the border, a little 2.8. But aside from that, general small microquake activity out here for now across Southern California. Inland activity, Washington, pretty quiet. Oregon up there as well. I know we've had a couple earthquakes around Mount Rainier, but really nothing of any major interest. It's just they go through little swarms on occasion, similar to Mount St. Helens. One earthquake here outside of the Hebgen Lake area. So let me go check here and see what we got from the Yellowstone seismograph stations here. Actually, yeah, all those quakes there that you see on the map, that almost looks like legit local earthquake activity, but it's not. Those are all the 6s and 5s from yesterday. There's 2 more 5-pointers right there. 2 more 5-pointers that showed up on the seismograph stations. Those almost look like localized earthquake activity, but if you think about it, right, if this was localized events, it's shown up on some of these other seismograph stations, but it was local, it'd show up on all the seismograph stations. What is a local earthquake is going to be this one right here, borehole area. This quake right here, it's well defined. It's shown up here on Mary Lake as a well-defined quake. Purple Mountain, West Boundary, Parker Peak, all throughout the Lake Yellowstone area as well. So that's a legit earthquake. That's going to be that 2.6 localized earthquake down there at 2131. So 2131 on the seismograph stations here. Let me pull one up right there. Yeah. So it's going to be 2230 because it's mountain time. 2231 right here. So that's a 2.6, and a couple other smaller quakes out there as well. But as far as these big seismograph readings, those are the 6-pointers from yesterday and the 5-pointers as well, all the way into the Aleutian Trench there. So we're talking thousands of miles away, actually, being picked up at Yellowstone. So, a number of large events there showing up. But as far as that being local, nothing. That's not local. Just that 2.6 there showing up. All right, let's see what else we have here across the area. Oil fields still getting hit. Oh, man, what's going on out here in the New Madrid zone? That's quite an uptick there for a 24-hour period. Quite a few 2s out there. 6 earthquakes in the last 24 hours. That's actually quite impressive. So let's see here. The last 30 days, 34, but normally we don't get 6 earthquakes in the 24-hour period out there across the New Madrid seismic zone. But it has been increasing, it seems like. We've seen some 3s out there even in the last 30 days as well. So amplification here across the New Madrid seismic zone. That's an area of the country here that had a series of large earthquakes back in 1811, 1812. I think we all studied it there in grade school. But, yeah, some big-time events there. Upper 7 magnitude earthquakes, a series of them that shook things up. I think it had bells, church bells ringing out there across the East Coast at that distance. So, obviously, east of the Rockies here, we get different type of rock structure, certain sediments out here as well. And that out here, it shakes the ground a lot more compared to having a 3-pointer out in California. Going to feel it locally, but out here when you have a 3-pointer, it's felt broadly across the region. So 7.5 or 7.6, goodness, that would be felt all over the place out there very strongly. So we're watching that. That's definitely some interesting activity there popping up with 6 earthquakes. Not big ones, but it is a sign of increasing movement out here. And a look at the last 30 days, obviously that's fairly prominent as well across the region with 34 earthquakes. So we'll continue to watch that. Nothing big for now, but 1811, 1812, that was well over 200 years ago. So a little bit of strain building up out there. Way up in Maine as well, near the Upton region, it looks like 2.1 late last night. Nothing else going on up there, as far as I can tell. Just a lot. I mean, if you notice this here, the globe pattern here in the last couple days, it seems as though maybe what set it off here was a super deep earthquake here across the Kuril-Kamchatka. That was at 6.1, that was a 6.1 out there. That triggered, it seemed like, let's go back and look here and see when that was. This was a 6-pointer on the 8th. Okay, so that was actually from yesterday. That was that deep earthquake here across the Kuril-Kamchatka. That seems to have set off a swarm here, because following this event, that's when we've seen all that activity stir up. Just a little adjustment here across the Pacific plate seems to enhance movement back here across that subduction zone. But still, this area at the surface level needs to be watched here for some mega quake activity. Prior to that, it's look at all those 5s and 6s. I got to go back a couple days here to the 7-pointer. Prior to that, we had some 4s and 5s, and if I remember right, it was just super quiet there for a couple weeks. That's all we had, just 4s and an occasional 5. So it looks as though, maybe the domino effect here was this earthquake. The 7-pointer off the Northern California coast there seems to have triggered some broad-scale activity. Of course, the culprit of all this stress and earthquake activity is the Pacific Plate. So something's going on underneath the area that creates all the convection, the movement of the plates, and is definitely stirring things up here. When things really kick up across the earthquake world, they ramp up in a decent fashion, like we're seeing here ever since the 7-pointer there in Northern California. So we'll watch for some further activity. Southern California has yet to get in on some of the fun out here. Just a little bit of small microquake activity, but they've been awfully quiet. But if you think about it, movement up north, a lot of activity down south. There's still got that potential to fill in here. But man, just a lot of activity stirring up out here in the last couple days after literally probably 3 to 4 weeks of just quietness. Moderate activity, but nothing large scale like what we're seeing right now. 5.1 out in this rift boundary there across the Indian Ocean. Some decent activity here across the Java Trench right now. Actually, that's from last night or early this morning. So we'll watch that. Some small activity there across Australia. New Zealand is off the chart for now. Pretty quiet. Nothing going on there. Knock on wood. Hawaii's not really showing any movement out there for now as far as that volcano goes, the Kilauea volcano. Just a lot of large-scale adjustment across the globe here. So we'll continue to watch it. The area across the Middle East, minimal movement at best. It looks like some 2s and 3s. Really nothing major rocking out here for now. All right, let's go ahead and check out space weather activity here real quick. There's yesterday's X-flare. Pretty decent. That was directed away from Earth, so there will be no amplification there to the geomagnetic forecast. That was off on the western limb from one of the sunspots. So we're left here with a number of sunspots out here. There's really not a whole lot of bright features out there on that UV image there of the sun. That would indicate some stronger flaring going on. And the visible disk here of the sun shows a number of sunspots, but these look fairly stable. I mean, we don't have the magnetic, we got a black and white magnetogram image, but I'm used to this colored one to where we can see the individual complexity. This is still from the 26th, the SDO folks there, Solar Dynamics Observatory. Well, their imagery is offline because they had some type of water flood event there in the office, which is odd. Shut down all the computers, and hopefully they'll be up soon. I don't know if they're going to be up by the end of the year, but yeah, this is the older image. At least in images like this, you can see close proximity colors, indicating whether this is possible of some stronger flaring. That dynamic mixing here of the colors indicate that polarity differences. And in the black and white image here, it's just not the same. So hopefully that comes back up here soon. Definitely miss it. 10% chance here for X-flare activity. M-flare at 60. C-flare around 99% chance. A little bit of auroras last night, and that was due to all the coronal holes that have been facing us. And I kind of discussed that in the last couple updated videos here. Those are Earth-facing coronal holes, and they supply us with some high-speed solar wind stream. And on occasion, it amps up there across the higher latitudes in terms of the auroras upon the arrival of the solar wind stream. But there's really not a whole lot there in the forecast in terms of any major aurora events. For severe weather, marginal risk for some severe weather down south across Louisiana. Looks like a little 2% chance there of some tornado activity. Really nothing big. Maybe some wind, no hail, but that's about it. Just a little chance there of some severe weather across the area. This area of the east is going to get quite a drenching here with some rainfall over the next couple days. You put that into motion, that's about midweek right here. Eventually that will scoot offshore off the eastern coast and bring some colder air with some snow potential there behind that. California looks like, yeah, just made my day opening this up and seeing this morning. Looks like we'll get a return to wet weather as we head towards the middle and maybe Thursday of this week here. So I'm ready for it. Definitely need that. Not a drencher like we had last time, but any precipitation is good. Maybe another system behind that. And yay, third one. Hopefully some more. Oh, yeah. Look at that. I'm loving it. So we'll see. It looks like a return of some active weather out there across California. And what that means here, low pressure troughing out here. That means high pressure is going to build here across this area of the country. So it looks like Colorado will have that high pressure over it with some above average temperatures out here. Goodness. I mean, they just got through dealing with a whole bunch of cold, right? Let's see, December 6th, December 9th. There's the today's time period. As we put that into motion, they got a cold blast of air coming in and then across the Great Lakes states again. But I do see high pressure building in there across the center portion of the country. Wow, that is some extreme. Look at those readings right here. This is going to be across the Dakotas, Minnesota area. That darker brown there, up there around 24 degrees above normal here. So that's where that high pressure is going to be. Not going to be cold dry. It's going to be at least above average dry out there for this area of the country. Goodness. California, there's our wetter systems coming in, bringing the cooler weather out here across California. So I'm okay with that. You know, we need our rain. This is our rainy season. Real quick glance here at the Alaska activity, 3.6, latest quake. One earthquake in the valley once again, 2.2 outside the Dunnigan Hills area. This is close to the Great Valley Thrust Fault here that runs alongside the west side of the valley here. I don't know if that's a legit earthquake or, let's see, let's take a look. It's underneath automatic status, so may not even be a legit earthquake, but we do have, we have some areas to watch out here. When things are on the roll, when things are on the ball out here, they really start rolling, literally, in terms of earthquake activity. So just be on guard, stay safe. The MyShake early alert system available for California, Oregon, and Washington. I don't know if Colorado has it or not. Unfortunately, the MyShake app is not available for everyone. Someone pointed that out recently. I'm not 100% certain how many states it covers. But locally here, for the viewers in Northern California, Southern California, the MyShake app, is a big deal living along the plate boundary. But I don't know if each state has maybe their own individual type of early alert. It's something new, and it's definitely good to have if you're out here across the West Coast. So I figured I'd point that out. It's not available everywhere, though. But, if you do happen to visit California, it'd be good to have on your phone anyway, right? So you visit some family out here in Oregon, Washington somewhere, or Southern California. At least it's already on your phone. So you live out in Kansas or Nebraska somewhere. You'll have it on your phone just in case a big earthquake comes while you're out here. It's based on proximity, location-wise, in terms of, what networks you're on out here. Cellular networks. All right, I'm out of here, folks. Have yourself a good day. Got a little busy day here. We'll be reporting in here a little bit later from a undisclosed location. But for now, have a good day, and we'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on today. Stay safe out there.